So it's time for another edition of What the Hell Am I Going to Do to My 3D Printer Now? Being that there's a shortage of Raspberry Pi, I was clued into this MKS Pi V1.1 board that I got on AliExpress. I swore I would never buy anything from AliExpress, but this was actually a painless transaction. It showed up about 2 weeks before it was even slated for arrival. It's supposedly a good Raspberry Pi alternative. It's a 64-bit rock chip processor. And I got the full kit that comes with the eMMC chip here. Comes with an adapter for a micro SD or a TF card that you can use to plug into your computer to flash firmware, or in this case it runs Armbian, which is a distro of Linux. Comes with this schwanky heatsink. It's got USB-C cable, this 3.5-inch MKS Pi TS35 touchscreen, and this come fast USB Wi-Fi adapter to kind of defeat the fact that this thing doesn't come with onboard Wi-Fi. It's got two USB 2.0s, a USB 3.0 Ethernet hookup, and then it's got the eMMC port here for the chip. It takes 12 or 24 volt power here, but it's a JST XH connector, and they don't include that, so that doesn't make any sense. But hey, what do you expect? But the come fast adapter here, coupled with everything else, is actually geared towards installing Clipper onto this, but I want to plug this in and see exactly what this distro consists of before I go crazy with it. I think it's got Clipper already installed on it, but I'm not 100% sure. I plugged it into my computer last night, and I did see that it does have, like I said, Armbian's already installed on it. I'd like to, for the time being, see if I can just install OctoPrint and then run on OctoPrint off of this. But if not, then I'm stuck using Clipper with one of their interfaces on that. But then I got to flash firmware onto the Neptune 3, which I'm trying to avoid, but I got this just to toy with. Don't try this at home, kids. So I've got a murder cable tied into 12 volt supply, going into the 2 pins on the Pi with some Arduino leads. I have seen these catch fire. Not mine, but I saw it last week. Kid was trying to run some pretty hefty voltage and current off of these things, and they just lit right up. Got it going into the screen. I've got the eMMC card plugged into the port. You got to keep an eye on the pins that get plugged into where, because you can plug this in one of two ways. These get in the way of flipping this around, but when you plug it into the adapter, you got to make sure that you get your one pin aligned the right way. So I'm going to plug this in and see what fires up. So we got signs of life. Keep an eye on how you plug these in. The way that this ribbon cable goes in, you lift up on this side and you put the bare side facing out, and then on the back of here you lift up on the little black piece, and same thing, the bare wires face down towards the base of the Pi. So yeah, it automatically boots up to Clipper. So it's, I mean, it works. I gotta see if there's a way to get away from that, but there we go. A little finicky on the touchscreen. It's not quite as good as the one on the Neptune, but also I'm trying to do it looking through my phone, so it's a little weird. I don't want to wipe out the image that's on here, although I can re-download it. So I don't know. I might try to flash standard Armbian onto here, or plug in a keyboard and see if I can get it to Uh-oh. Look at that. It's already crashing out on me. uh, oh well, I'm going to play with this a little bit and come back and report my findings. So if you hear the occasional noise in the background, I do apologize. I'm in the middle of printing something and the nozzle's rubbing a little bit. But for anybody who's interested in the MakerBase MKS Pi board, the best place to get it is AliExpress. They have different kits available, and they call them suites. So you have suite 1, suite 2, suite 3, blah, blah, blah. The suite 1 is just the standard board with the USB-C and heatsink. Suite 2 includes a screen. Suite 3 starts to include the come-fast Wi-Fi unit. My recommendation is to go for Suite 7, which includes the board, the USB-C cable, the Wi-Fi adapter, an eMMC module, and a micro SD eMMC adapter, which allows you to plug the eMMC module into your SD card reader. And from there, you can flash the firmware. If you look at the MakerBase GitHub page, the link at the top brings you to the store that has the Suite 7 available. It shows you all the information for the board. But also, as you scroll down, you have the image that you can download from here. The module comes pre-installed with an older version of the MKS Armbian software, but it's best to download it and reflash it. The way that I was flashing it was with the Raspberry Pi imager. Simply put, you download the image, you use this button to search for it, you use this button to choose your storage medium, which when you plug in the eMMC unit, it shows up on here, and just hit write. And it'll overwrite the image that's on the chip, and it will flash the new image for you, and then it will disable the drive so you can remove it immediately. There's also this Etcher program, which is just an open source version of basically the same thing. From there, you have to connect either 12 or 24 volts to the MKS Pi. It is a JST XH connection, but they don't include the cable for that. Before you put actual power to it and turn the board on, plug in the eMMC module. The kit also comes with mounting hardware for the module, so it doesn't come loose. There's a couple of standoffs and some screws. When you plug the module back into the computer after the installation, because what you want to do is you want to remove the drive and then put it back in, you'll get a boot drive that pops up that you can open in Windows. And in the boot drive, look for the file WPA supplicant WLAN0.conf. Open that up with Notepad or Notepad++ or any kind of basic text editing program. Change the SSID and the PSK to your Wi-Fi SSID and password. Save that file, but don't change anything else. I had an issue with a configuration file that I kept changing the SSID inside of, and it wasn't connecting, but doing it this way automatically connects as soon as I power up the MKS Pi. You'll also want to install a program called Putty. If you click on this, it shows you how to connect to Putty via the serial port. Another way you can connect to the board is to find out what the IP address of the board is after it powers up. If you go into the Clipper screen and you go into the network settings, it'll show you what the IP address is if you have DHCP turned on. You can also set a static IP address if you wanted to. In my case, my IP address for the board is 192.168.1.20. When you open up Putty and put in the IP address, it'll ask you for a login. The login is typically MKS, and the password is MakerBase. From there, you'll get this little splash screen that comes up. And from here, you can start doing configurations for, in my case, I'm using OctoPrint. So if you go to Google search or Bing-a-linga here, and you do an OctoPrint install Linux search. You go to the first page that comes up, scroll down to install manually Linux, and then click on the setup instructions. If you follow these instructions, you can basically just copy this entire section. And when you right click inside of this little Linux window, it will paste anything that you've copied from here into here, and it'll execute it automatically. In my case, I already have everything installed, so I'm not going to do that. But follow this step by step. Do all of these, then do this, then make sure you do these, just in case. These will allow access to serial ports. I was having an issue with the install because I missed this step, went back, did this step, and the install went fine. To test out the server, you can use this OctoPrint serve command, which looks like this one right here. In this case, they're using a Raspberry Pi, so also keep in mind that anything that points to Pi is going to have to change to MKS, such as this exec start equals this Pi right here. Change this to MKS, copy it into Notepad, paste it, change it, recopy it, and then paste it into here, or just type it in manually. But what you're going to want to do is, once you've got OctoPrint working, go in and set an automatic startup script. You basically just run this right here, and this will create a service for you. Go into the service by opening PuTTY. Once it's open, type in nano, or actually in this case sudo nano, because we have to make a system file change. Put in the password, and then you'll get to this little screen here. It's funny because I have access to this entire screen, but I keep looking at it as if it's a little tiny touch screen. As a side note, I did mention to only get the suite that doesn't include the screen, simply because I'm not a big fan of the screen. I don't think the screen is that great. So if you want to get the screen, go ahead. It's another $12 or something like that, but I really don't think it's a great screen. I've been finding that I have to use a stylus in order to touch anything on the screen. It's not very responsive. So I can't recommend it, but I can't shy you away from buying it, because if you didn't buy it, then you'd have to have either an HDMI compatible touchscreen, or you'd have to find an alternate solution that runs off of the ribbon cable that comes with the unit. But anyway, inside of Nano, the first thing you'll do is hit Control R and then Control T. And that will allow you to open up the file that you need to make changes to or double check this exec start line right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to double dots, hit enter, go back to the double dots that are next to there, hit enter, and then go to the etc folder, come down to system D, cursor over to system, cursor down to octoprint.service, and just make sure that the user is at MKS and the exec start folder here is MKS. In order to write this file, you hit Control and the letter O. It's going to ask you for the file name to write. You have to get back to the same file, and I haven't quite figured out how to do it automatically, but to do it, just go Control T and just do the same thing. Double dot, etc, system D, system, OctoPrint service, and then just hit Y for yes to confirm that you're overwriting that file. Once you do that and everything is all set up, you can use this sudo systemctl enable octoprint.service, and that will enable the auto start script, and that'll also allow you to use the start, stop, and restart daemon by typing in sudo service octoprint start or stop or restart. Once you have all of that going, you should be able to SSH into the board again using PuTTY, log in, and you can start the service just by going sudo system octoprint start. I'm in the middle of a print, so I'm not going to do that. But if everything is set up the right way, that should work fine. I'm currently running the OctoPrint service on the MKS Pi. I still don't have an interface screen besides the Clipper screen, but I'm going to be looking into ways of replacing the Clipper screen with a different user interface that will run OctoPrint. So stay tuned for that, and as soon as I get information on it, I will let you know. But now back to our regularly scheduled program. So during our mid-vid coital interruptal, I printed out this case. It holds the Pi, and it holds the touchscreen. The little dingus sticks out the side here. That's fine. I don't have it secured or anything like that. I just have the screen kind of shoved in to the slot. The printables file came with this little guy here, which is to roll up the 9-foot long ribbon cable that they give you. There's no actual mounting provision available, but it did give a little hole pattern on the bottom to build something. It's open frame for airflow. Don't really know how much you need it. Thing doesn't get very hot. This was a 4-hour print running directly off of the OctoPrint install on this, and it worked without a hitch. So quite happy with that. I'm still going to poke and prod and see if I can get an OctoPrint UI on this thing. I'm kind of optimistic that I can, but this video is long enough, so I'm going to leave it at that. I hope this was useful, and I hope that it puts some of your Raspberry Pi woes to bed. When I get this thing fully functional from the touchscreen, I'll probably still use that one because it's a lot more sensitive, but whatever. I want to get it to work. So thanks for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Blah, 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 blah. See you soon.